Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for analysis for the game we love across the nation with the best bloggers and media contributors you're going to find anywhere, including Andrew Hutchinson, who joins us from Hogs 247. And we always enjoy the conversation with Andrew. And we've got, of course, Arkansas spring game in the books. Andrew, were you there to brave the, 33-degree temperatures?
You know, it was a lot better inside the press box, thankfully, but it was very weird, with the spring game being in Little Rock. I had to get up early that morning and drive to Little Rock from Fayetteville, and it's about a 3-hour drive, and the first part of it was through the snow. I mean, it was April 7th, driving to an SEC spring game, driving through the snow. Think about that for a minute. That's very unusual. And but yeah, it was pretty. And then once we got to Little Rock, it was sleeting and raining and dreary and everything, but as I said, being in the press box made it a little bit better for me.
I do have to kind of take that in because we're used to seeing that, let's say, across Big Ten country, even though most of their spring games are usually nice because it's usually nice, relatively speaking, across the country this time of year. But if you catch a Michigan State spring game like I did on Saturday and it's 30 degrees, you're not too surprised. But I caught the replay on the SEC Network or on ESPNU of Arkansas spring game, and as soon as they set the scene, I was a bit surprised. I'm sure the weather will change rather quickly if it hasn't already. Well, Andrew, let's get to the offense because I don't know that there's been as drastic a change from one offensive scheme to another like we've seen under Brett Bielema, now going to Chad Morris. Slow it down, run the fewest plays in the conference versus let's speed it up and dictate to the defense. So what were your impressions from watching the offense run for the first time in somewhat game-like conditions?
It was kind of like what we'd seen. They had opened up a couple of scrimmages before Saturday for the media, and it looked about the same. There's still some kinks that they need to work out, and they're still struggling with the pace of play. And, they don't have one set quarterback. I'm sure we'll get into that. But when you're rotating quarterbacks in and out, that's always difficult. But yeah, there were some guys that, stood out. I thought Devwall Whaley, running back, ran the ball really well, had 62 yards on 8 carries. That was kind of a good thing to see. He hadn't exactly looked the best. There's about 4 running backs right now that are competing for reps, and they'll add a 5th when Rakeem Boyd gets to campus. And I had been the least impressed with him. But I knew the talent was there, and he really showed that talent on Saturday, churning out yards. The wide receivers, there were a couple of guys that stood out, but I'd still like to see more wide receivers making big plays. I know the tight ends. I think C.J. O'Grady had a couple of touchdown catches for 58 yards, and a couple other tight ends made a couple of grabs. But I think the tight ends are going to be more involved in the passing game than maybe even the wide receivers, proportionately speaking. So there was still some struggles. They're still getting the hang of things. It was a very vanilla offense, as Chad Morris described it. And so there's still things they need to get installed and everything. They're probably only at about 25% install. And as you know, Chad Morris's offenses are pretty complicated, pretty fast paced, and have a lot in them. So still a lot of work ahead for the offense.
We are talking up the Hogs with Andrew Hutchinson. You can join his work on Hogs 247. Andrew has joined us a number of times in recent months and really set the stage with Arkansas football. And one of the main topics has, of course, been the quarterback situation, which is front and center for most programs. But we have a neck-and-neck quarterback battle. We've got a different style offense. And the different scheme coming into play. A wise man once said, Andrew, that nobody can win the quarterback job during the spring game, but a lot of people have gone to the other end of the spectrum where they have looked bad and possibly put themselves in a bad position for August. Because if you look great, sure, the defense is vanilla, the situation's in play that you can look good. But if you look bad, then maybe that's telling us something. So how would you assess the quarterback play?
I'd say they were average. I mean, if you look at their stats, they were almost identical. Cole Kelly was just a hair over 50% completion percentage, 10 of 19. Ty Story was 7 of 14, so exactly 50%. Both of them had exactly 126 passing yards, exactly 1 touchdown pass. and were sacked exactly twice each. So pretty similar outings, and they worked with the first and second team offense against the first and second team defense. Kind of rotating in and out. So neither one really got into a groove. After rewatching it this morning, I thought Cole Kelly had the better day. He had a couple of passes that were dropped that would have added to his yardage and added to his completion percentage that would have made him look a little bit better and better than average. But I still, as you said, you can't really win a quarterback job on in the spring game. Arkansas fans, if you talk to an average Arkansas fan who watched the spring game, they would all tell you about how great Dalton Hyatt is. He's the redshirt freshman. Came in the second half whenever they were going with the threes. But again, I caution everybody, that's against a third-team defense, against a defense full of walk-ons, guys that probably aren't going to see the field other than maybe special teams. And, he ran around quite a bit, and everyone was like, oh, my gosh, he's like the second coming of Matt Jones. Well, he was wearing a gray jersey that said you couldn't touch him. So I think you or me could get out there and run around quite a bit if I had a jersey that said you can't touch me. So I would caution fans thinking that he's, the next big thing. He may be down the road, but the 2018 battle is definitely between Cole Kelly and Ty Story. And I still think it's last time I told you, I thought, I think I said Ty Story had a slight edge. Right now, I truly think it is a 50-50 battle. Neither one really has an edge because Cole Kelly's come on strong, at the end of spring practice, and Ty Story's kind of just been steady. And I think it's going to go into the fall camp.
We love the Arkansas football talk with Andrew Hutchinson from Hogs 247 Sports. Join him right there for Arkansas football coverage. And, of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel where I bring on the best bloggers and broadcasters and writers across the country. So as we flip the page to the defense, I think the cautionary tale is just about the same. They can only be so aggressive. Number one, the scheme's not going to give the offense much to think about. The offense has been practicing against this defense every day, twice a day at times, and knows what the defensive personnel and what the schemes look like. And on top of that, you can only be so aggressive because I can only imagine that even a defensive mindset of a player who needs to earn a job can only be so aggressive because they know they can't just really pop people. So it's just an assessment of, I would think the coverage skills would be the easiest thing to assess out there out of the defensive backs. But just your thoughts with the change that we've talked about from the 3-4 to the 4-3 from a defense that ranked last in a lot of important categories last year in the SEC.
Yeah, I think the defense is definitely a lot further along than the offense, but that's a pretty common in football. And Chad Morris made the comment after the spring game saying, it's much easier to put in a new scheme and have players just go make plays on defense. You don't have to really think. You just got to see ball, get ball. And that's kind of what they did. There were, I think during the first half, which really the first half is what you got to look at. There were 4 sacks, 2 by Randy Ramsey and 2 by Jamario Bell. Both those guys play the rush ends position. I think that's going to be an exciting spot to watch for Arkansas fans because Randy Ramsey, he even put out a tweet after the spring game saying, I've been waiting my whole career to be able to rush the passer, and this defense is finally giving me a chance to do that. And I think that's a scary thought because he's a guy that I've been really high on for the last, 3 years because he's looked really good in spring and fall practices, but never really been put in the position to succeed in the season. I think he's going to get that. You mentioned the coverage skills are something you can assess, and I saw some good things. Ryan Pulley is a guy who got hurt in the season opener last year and missed the entire season. And he made, I think, had 3 pass breakups, looked really good. Chevin Callaway, who was a freshman last year, got a lot of playing time because of Ryan Pulley's injury. He's the other starter, and he made a tremendous pass breakup on what would have been a touchdown pass. Just really good, timed his jump right, turned his head when he was supposed to, and knocked the ball away. So there were some good things. Obviously, we didn't see all of it. McTelvin Agim, who's probably going to be the top or one of the top defensive players on the team, was not there. He had a funeral to attend to, so he missed. And so you had some different guys playing on the inside on the defensive line, but still, I think the defense is really coming along nicely. But again, I'm anxious to see what they do against another team because some of this could just be the result of Arkansas's offensive line not blocking well. And I think that's part of it. We fell into that trap a couple of years ago where Arkansas's defensive line looked like it was going to be amazing, but really it was because the defensive line looked amazing. It's because the offensive line was terrible. I don't think it's going to be quite that extreme this year. I think the offensive line will be improved, but still, I'm anxious to see what Randy Ramsey and Jamario Bell can do against another team's left tackle and see if they can beat him just like they did in the spring game.
Now we hope, Andrew, that from the end of spring practice all the way up until the first week of August, that everybody stays healthy and they stay out of trouble. That's pretty much what it boils down to right now for the next couple months. But you covered a ton of ground for us, but I'll leave it wide open for you if there's anybody else that really helped themselves, not just on Saturday, but from the workouts you gathered, everything in its entirety over the last 15 sessions plus the scrimmages.
Well, the guy that I've really been impressed with all spring is a wide receiver, LaMichael Petway. I don't know if that's just because I played wide receiver in high school, so I'm naturally drawn to that position. But LaMichael Petway is a guy who came to Arkansas with a lot of potential. Had some other SEC offers. He could have left the state. He's from Arkansas, from Nashville, Arkansas, and he was kind of one of those guys I talked about in some of our previous conversations, where he was in the doghouse with the previous staff, really never got many opportunities. And he's been running with the first team offense all spring. And he's really, taking advantage of that. He's had a couple of critical drops in the scrimmages that we saw before the spring game, but he was locked in on Saturday. He had 6 catches for 91 yards. He had one catch where he caught it on the sideline and hung on to it despite a safety coming over and hitting him pretty hard out of bounds. He had another one where he caught a back shoulder throw for a nice gain. And it was just a really solid performance by him. So I really liked what I saw from him out of during the spring game. And also almost forgot, probably his biggest play was on a touchdown to Cheyenne O'Grady to tight end. It was a 53-yard touchdown. It would have been just like a 40-yard gain. I say just. Had it not been for LaMichael Petway's blocking down the field. He's a really physical guy, and that's one thing coaches really like about him. And without his blocking, I don't think O'Grady would have scored a touchdown on that play. So he had a really good scrimmage, and also a freshman, Michael Woods, another wide receiver. He only had 2 catches for 21 yards, but he was open on a couple of what should have been touchdowns, but the quarterbacks missed them. That was the other thing that Cole Kelly and Ty Story looked identical on. They both missed what should have been a wide open touchdown. So they both had identical mistakes as well. But Michael Woods has done quite a bit. And I think even though he's a true freshman, early enrollee, I think he's going to be heavily involved in the offense. So those are 2 guys that I was most excited about to see both throughout the spring and also on Saturday in the spring game.
So Arkansas spring football is in the books. The team will, of course, have workouts individually and within team drills, minus the coaches through much of the summer, of course, in the weight room as well. The quarterbacks will battle it out and try to work on their games to prepare themselves for the first week of August. And then that 1 month of really getting down to the nuts and bolts of getting ready for September 1st and trying to correct what was a 1-7 season in the SEC last year. Andrew Hutchinson doing great work for us right here. You can join him on Hogs 247 covering Arkansas athletics. Andrew, we appreciate you stopping by and breaking things down for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on anytime.